The question before the House is the amendment to House Rule 63. The chair recognizes Representative Burt for a motion. Chair recognizes Representative Burt to offer a floor amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to offer
Will the member please suspend? The House will be in order. It's a little tough to hear. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to offer this floor amendment to Rule 63.
Representative Burt moves the adoption of the Burt floor amendment to House Rule 63. And is recognized to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I ask you and the fine representatives to vote yes on this amendment, which will keep us safe and allow any citizen with a legal State of New Hampshire pistol revolver license to protect the children, staff, and reps who wish not to carry if a crazy nut wishes to do us harm. Regardless of party, gender, race, or age of any person that may be in harm's way, I and many other reps are willing to do this. I pray to God that this would never be needed. But if we become a gun-free zone, we are telling every nut in this state that we are sitting ducks, and when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. We have a constitutional right to protect ourselves, and I wish to do that. On December 5th, I sat in this house and Governor Lynch himself said some words and we all repeated them. I know the fine representative from Litchfield said these words as his oath of office was the one I found online. Being before His Excellency, the Governor and the Honorable Council, state your name, state your town, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith, true allegiance to the United States of America and to the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof. So help me God. I, state your name again, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent on me as a state representative, according to the best of my ability, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire. So help me God. We all signed this oath, or we would not be sitting in this fine House of Representatives. For 193 years, the representatives of this House have had the right to protect the children, the staff, and themselves from evil that come to us if we become a gun-free zone. And we would not follow our forefathers, which went by the New Hampshire and U.S. Constitution. Please vote yes and press the green button on this amendment. It is the right thing to do. If, by chance, this amendment does not pass and Rule 63 takes place and we become a gun-free zone, I have one thing to say. I will not be a victim in this House And I want all the crazy nuts out there in this state to understand that. So help me God. Madam Speaker, I would like a roll call. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I just want to make clear the floor amendment that you have, the Burt floor amendment, was drafted prior to our adopting the amendment that we just did. So, or any portion of the State House adjacent to any of the above would also read or House Gallery. Does the member yield to a question? The member yields to Representative Campbell. You may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the representative for yielding. When you talk about the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the provision in the New Hampshire Constitution that allows the right to bear arms, I assume you're talking about limits on that and not allowing limits. But isn't this amendment, as offered, by saying it's only allowing people that have pistol permits, isn't that in itself a limitation on the right to bear arms?
Thank you, Representative, for that question. And the answer is yes, it is. I did not like the way it was that I wrote this, but I felt that it was the only compromise that would keep the children, the staff, and myself, and the rest of us, safe in this house. Because 2 years ago we eliminated, which I opposed, eliminated open carry. And what this would do is it would basically keep the same rights for legal carry and concealed permit individuals to protect us on this House floor.
The question before the House, will the member yield to another question? The member yields to Representative Horgan. You may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the representative from Goffstown. I have a question about, it says, except for any person with a legal state of pistol revolver license, in accordance with Chapter 159 of the RSAs as amended 1979. So I looked at Chapter 159, and it has, well, some of the sections have letters, so I couldn't even count how many there are, but there's a couple dozen sections to it, and it's been amended a number of times since 1979. So you could maybe explain why you wrote it that way instead of just saying pursuant to whichever section it is that's the relevant section.
Thank you, Representative, for your question. And what I did is I took my permit out, which I do have a concealed weapons permit, or firearms permit is the correct term. I took it out and I just copied what their law was, how they stated it on the top. That's where this came from.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. Representative DeSimone, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Burt, for taking my question. I was having a hard time figuring out what deadly weapons actually meant, so I referred to RSA 625.11, and Roman numeral 5 specifically states what the interpretation of that is. Nowhere does it discuss any kind of a gun. It doesn't specify anything other. It specifically states firearm, knife, or other substance or thing which in the manner it is used, intended to be used, or threatened to be used is known to be capable of producing death or serious bodily harm. Now I understand that firearm is included in that. Are we to be handed a laundry list of what it is we can and cannot bring into this chamber? Is that what your interpretation of this is?
The interpretation of 64 RSA 624:11.
62511.
I don't have that in front of me. I mean, bottom line, if it doesn't state a firearm, to be honest, I'm a little nervous about your pen that you're holding.
My point exactly. It
Well,
does.
does the member wish to have
May
a
I?
follow-up?
May I?
Does the member yield? The member yields.
It does say firearm, knife, or other substance or thing. This, if I said or threatened to stab you with this pen, this would be considered. So shouldn't that be added to this rule? If we're going to include guns?
With the properly, I would assume there's some people in here that would know how to use that pen, so I would say yes.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Tamburello for a parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My parliamentary inquiry is as follows. Are not members of the General Court considered officers of the court and are not officers
That
of...
is not a parliamentary inquiry. A parliamentary inquiry is an inquiry about the parliamentary situation. The situation right now is that House Rule 63, an amendment to House Rule 63 is before us, and in particular, a floor amendment to that amendment.
Very well.
If you,
I would like an inquiry of the representative.
would the member yield to a question? The member yields, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative, for taking my question. In your opinion, sir, are not members of the General Court also considered officers of the court, and are not officers of the court allowed to carry within a court in New Hampshire?
I would agree with that, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. Representative Dumaine, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and the representative for taking my question. Would you believe that there are two constitutional amendments in our Constitution? Part 1, Article 2A says, I can carry a gun anywhere, and another amendment that says if you don't want to carry a gun, you don't have to.
Thank you for that question, Representative, and I would agree with that.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. Representative Schlockman, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for taking my question. Because of a previous question over there from my fine colleague, I looked up the reference in your bill 624 because she was referring to 625, and now I'm really confused because 624, that section 11, doesn't seem to be dealing with weapons at all. So this says in possession of any weapon as defined in RSA 624:11(5), and 624:11 there is no 5, and it's talking about the effect of conflicting provisions. So I'm wondering if you are a victim of a drafting typo, or if in fact we should go back to the question on 625 that was posed earlier. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I do state in my amendment 624:11, so there is I guess it could be possible there is a clerical error there, but I don't believe there is. Oh, there is?
The question, before the House is on the Burt. Will the member yield to a question? The member yields. Representative Valancourt, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a clarifying question, because I think we got some misinformation in response to another question. Somebody asked if officers of the court could carry, and I think you said yes, but are not lawyers officers of the court, and are not lawyers prohibited from carrying guns into a courtroom? So isn't the answer that officers of the court cannot all carry guns?
Thank you for the question. I don't know if they're not allowed to carry a firearm because they go into a side entrance which does not require a metal detector. And I understand a few of my lawyer friends have carried.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. Representative Copeland, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A representative, with regards to RSA Section 625 with deadly weapons, and your amendment regarding people with licenses being allowed to carry, could you possibly be referring to some type of vetting process that is done with licenses to carry, including mental defects that people fill out and are only granted that license under those provisions, so that other people who are carrying other weapons or open carry aren't properly vetted through this process?
I guess I don't quite understand. I apologize.
In order to get a pistol license in this
Yes.
state, you must declare certain things, including mental defect. The chief of police has to do a background check and answer that permit within 30 days of denying or granting.
Yes.
So a vetting process is done through this procedure, whereupon open carry or other sections of 625 that declare brass knuckles, daggers, knives, etc., there is no vetting process for that for the citizens of the state.
Absolutely. You're
Thank you.
correct. Thank you. And it is 625. I apologize.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. You may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for taking my question. Would you believe that I was a court security officer in Goffstown District Court for approximately a year and a half after I retired from the Postal Service? Would you also believe that, as far as I know, that in this state, with the proper identification, a lawyer, an attorney coming into the courtroom showing proper identification as an attorney of record can carry in that courtroom?
Thank you, Representative, for that question, and I definitely would believe that, and I also believe that state representatives also with the proper credential could carry into a courtroom.
The question before the House is the Burt floor amendment on House Rule 63. The chair recognizes the member from Rochester, Representative Gruen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess as long as we're on the discussion of dangerous things, we probably should spread the net a little wider. You all know that statistics can be problematic because you can twist them however you want, but this one's pretty overwhelming, so I think I got some leeway. The number of physicians in the United States is about 700,000. The accidental deaths caused by physicians per year are about 120,000. That comes to about 0.171 per physician. And with all due respect to the medical professionals in here, I'm not talking about that. The number of gun owners in the United States is about 80 million. And the number of accidental gun deaths that result from gun owners, legal gun owners, is about 1,500. So that's 0.000188. So what that means, according to the FBI, doctors are about 9,000 times more dangerous than gun owners. Are we thinking about banning doctors from the House? There are some statistics in here about lawyers too. But they are so dramatic that I'm not going to bring them up for fear someone might become agitated and go seek medical attention. On the other hand, I think we could look around the world and throughout history and see what's happened with people like Pol Pot, Mao, Mussolini, Hitler, who were the prime advocates for disarming the citizens. And we should contrast them to guys like Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry said, "Are we at last brought to such humiliating and debasing degradation that we cannot be trusted with arms for our defense?" That's Patrick Henry. Thomas Jefferson said, "The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny in government." We've got a choice to make here. I would hope that we would choose to stand with the Founding Fathers and not with people like Hitler and Mussolini and the like.
The question before the House is the Burt floor amendment on House Rule 63. I would just note after the discussion that the existing House rule does refer to 625:11, so any of the amendments are intended to be 625:11. The chair recognizes the member from Stoddard, Representative Eaton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've gone a long way around in a circle for what is in essence a very simple amendment, which was to allow those with a pistol permit to be able to carry on the floor of the House. And we've covered every other issue but that, or it seems so. First of all, it's a tad discriminatory towards most of the members. Second, having a permit to carry a weapon in no possible way describes aptitude to carry and use a weapon. Anyone in this chamber can go get a pistol permit. And I would suggest to you that depending on what town you're from and where you live, although you're not allowed to have one if you're a convicted felon or you have some mental defect, that you could probably get one anyway. I happen to know in town where I was a police chief, the person that followed along issued a permit to a felon because he did not know how to do the background check. You do not know if someone is mentally defective unless they have been adjudicated mentally defective. And usually, not usually, oftentimes will have things plea bargained out of seeking counseling. So that would not be in the record for having a license to carry a firearm. A license is a piece of paper that just says, yes, you can carry a weapon concealed, and under no circumstance assures any town or this body that a proper background check has been done, and absolutely nowhere ensures anyone in this body that the person carrying that weapon has a clue of which angle to point it at. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I welcome the question from my colleague and brother police officer from Keene.
The member yields to the question. Representative Dumaine, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, sir. You were a police officer too, so we're both even.
I said brother, yes.
My question is, actually it's a question to try to understand what you're saying. So what you're saying is that it's perfectly okay to throw a wide net over all law-abiding citizens in order to get the criminal aspect or the insane aspect covered.
Actually, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is the piece of paper that is issued to you is a piece of paper that says you can carry a weapon concealed. I'm not covering the wide issue of whether we're carrying weapons. That is to come, and that will be fun. But the question is, does the piece of paper giving you concealed weapon permit enable you to be any more qualified or any better to carry a weapon than anyone else in this chamber? And the answer is no, because you know as well as I do that the criminal background check is not infallible, in fact is very fallible. And two, there is absolutely no requirement when you get that piece of paper that you have any concept of how to use any weapon whatsoever.
Will the member yield to a follow-up? The member yields.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you again, Representative. I know that you can handle one, and I know I can handle one.
Done it together.
Now, you may have some people in who think they can and can't, but my question is, Why throw a wide net over law-abiding citizens when the insane and the criminals carry concealed anyway because they can't get a pistol permit and they slither under the net? They're the threat. They come in here. Can you guarantee they'll be stopped before they shoot somebody?
One, I can't guarantee they'll be stopped before they come in here and shoot someone. And two, I can't guarantee that they're not going to get a permit. In fact, there is as much likelihood that they will get a permit as not, unless they have a standing conviction for a felony or a standing conviction for some mental health issue, which is more rare than not.
Will the member yield to another question?
Or should I wait till after everything?
Representative Baldessaro, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Rep, for taking my question. I was going to stop with the questions until I speak. And my concern, the first thing that came to my mind was, so your answer to this here is disarm all the law-abiding citizens because they may have not had some type of training to get their permit?
That was not my statement whatsoever. I said that is part of one of the problems. My position is having a permit to carry is not a sanction that states you are proficient in use.
Follow up, Madam Speaker?
Will the member yield to a follow-up? The member yields.
And then I'm done. So, is there any historical data in the state of New Hampshire, since we're the safest state for many years, that shows that there's a flaw in the system with the permit, that people are getting hurt or injured, that there's an issue?
I know that there is data that people have gotten permits who should not have gotten permits, and can I present that data to you today? Absolutely not. But there is data that people who should not have gotten permits, in fact, did. And I can take you to 13 states that do not require a permitting process at all, including our neighbor, Vermont, that have no requirements for a permit.
Thank you, Representative. I meant to say besides the police officer.
The question before the House is the Burt floor amendment to House Rule 63. This will be a division vote. Will members please take their seats? This will be a division vote. Representative Burt requests a roll call. Is that sufficiently seconded? It is sufficiently seconded. This will be a roll call vote. Will members please take their seats? Members should be in their seats. The question before the House is the Burt floor amendment to House Rule 63. This is a roll call vote. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. The chair recognizes Representative Burt for a parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I know that this amendment would keep the children that visit this fine state house, the staff, and all of us fine representatives safe from evil that would come to us if this amendment fails. And for 193 years, we have kept our children safe and our staff and fine representatives safe 100% of the time. And voting yes is the right thing to do for those reasons. Would I now push the green button? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the Burt floor amendment to House Rule 63. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. The chair recognizes Representative Shurtleff for a parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I know that the amendment sponsored by the gentleman from Goffstown is contrary to the recommendation of the Rules Committee, and if I know further, Madam Speaker, that as the gentleman from Stoddard pointed out, the fact that an individual who is given a gun permit only means they can carry a concealed weapon and not that they're qualified to use that weapon, would I vote now by pressing the red button to vote no? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the Burt floor amendment to House Rule 63. This is a roll call vote. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Voting stations are open for 30 seconds. The House will be attentive to the state of the vote. 156 having voted in the affirmative, 209 in the negative. The floor amendment fails.